Okay, there we go. No problem. All right, so what I'll start with is we'll just log in. All right, so I'll clear out everything. So I'll start by going over to settings. So the carriers that we have in right now is pretty much everything. I believe it's everything you guys use. We're pushing GPM Live today and Moo Children's Whole Life today as well. But other than that, we basically have everything that most agents use. If there's any carrier that we don't have that you want to see us add, Brad, I think you mentioned like Baltimore and a few others. If you can just send us the materials, I can get stuff added within about 1 or 2 days. So it's pretty quick. So this is what we'll leave on everything for now because obviously the Occidental and American Amicable rate packages are just the same underwriting. So we're going to turn off, actually, let's turn that off, and then we'll turn off that one. So the telesales toggle, so if you are a non-face-to-face, if you're remote, the telesales toggle, nothing happens when you turn it on, but in the back end of the system, it'll do all that stuff for you. So no Prosperity Voice, SIG, and PA. Assurant is limited to 15,000. For Mutual Omaha, they track IP address with the email signature, so we give you a reminder to make sure that you better make sure you're doing the email signature, or the client's doing the email signature close to their home, or they will flag you. You'll get an investigation launched against you. So all that stuff is done for you when you turn on the toggle. We're going to leave it off for now, but that's something to keep in mind. So we will skip over the CRM for now. We're going to go to the drug lookup tool. So drug lookup tool is very simple. It's just broken off from the quoter. This is built into the quoter, but if you want to just look up a drug. So the first question people ask us is, why do you ask for the date of birth and the state? Well, because this isn't a PDF. We actually want it to be perfectly accurate. So different products are available in different states. Certain products aren't. Certain companies aren't. And for date of birth, certain companies care about date diagnosed, Transamerica, and others. So it takes 2 seconds of your time, just plug in the date of birth and the state, and it'll make it much more accurate than it would otherwise be. So if we type in a medication that's not too important, like lisinopril, you see it'll just pop up a list of companies, and it says decline. It does not actually decline. The companies just aren't available in this state, so we're fixing that. But if a company's not offered, you'll be able to mouse, and it'll tell you, just not offered in Texas in this case. So we'll add on one that's a little bit more restrictive. So if we add on Spiriva, you can see you start getting the standard decision. So if you mouse over, it'll tell you why certain companies. So you can learn the underwriting just like we have. You can read over. So if I put in, they stack on top of each other. So if I put in Entresto for high blood pressure or for heart failure, it'll filter them down even further, and you'll see there's a lot more declines down here. So that's just the drug lookup tool. It's a easier, quicker way if you just want to look up 1 or 2 medications. Next is the health cheat sheet. Health cheat sheet, very self-explanatory, just like the PDFs that we all share around. You type in a condition or multiple conditions. You'll see that they stack on top of each other, so you can read over the tile. We list everything on here, so it's not like a typical PDF cheat sheet where sometimes the carrier is listed, sometimes it's not, who knows. It's just what the IMO wanted to list. With this, it's everything you have selected will show in alphabetical order with every piece of relevant information to that carrier. So you can see if the prospects had cancer more than once. For AFib, if you look at Moo, it'll tell you if diagnosed within a year decline, not just treated within 2 graded, because they care about heart condition diagnosed within a year. So it gives you every relevant piece of information that we have in our system shown to you on the cheat sheet. And of course, if it just says the coverage type, it's it's just going to go level or preferred. No, it treats each person as an individual at this point. So if you're running this is looking at this one client with these conditions. Does that answer your question? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Yeah, I was going to show that a little later. I'll just show it to you now so I don't lose track of it. But like if we put in, let's just say 1160. If we put in COPD, I'm going to look at GCU in this case just because I have this one memorized. What's it called? Multiple sclerosis. So this is in GCU's standard section. So if you go down to them, it's modified because even though COPD is standard and multiple sclerosis is standard, if they're answered together, that makes it modified. So yes, we do have the different questions. Transamerica, KSKJ, so yes. So you can think of it from an underwriting perspective. We did not cut. There's no corners that we know of that are cut. If you see anything ever that is not accurate, please tell us, because there's nothing in here that I know of that is not accurate. Even, I'm going to show you in more in depth the quoter in a second, but we try to be as wildly thorough as we can. So yes, that's in there. So yeah, we covered the health cheat sheet, pretty simple. Quote compare and CRM we're going to come back to, but now we're going to go to the quoter. So the quoter is the main part of the software, and we do break it off into a few different sections. So if you look in your settings, we give you the embeddable HTML. So if you want to put this on your website, you're free to do so. Just like you can see here, the light link, it pretty much gives you the shareable link. So I can share this link to a client. I can send it to one of my agents if I want them to use it, and it's just a reduced, like kind of watered down version of the quoter. You can just put in the basic info, and it returns a quote. So no underwriting, no nothing, but you can share this link around. You can choose what carriers show it. It's based off of your settings. So this is something that everybody gets. And then again, the HTML, so we built in lead gen to it. So let's say I put this is a copy of how to look on your website, and luckily it is functional. So let's say I have it on my website, a client, an agent, whatever is on my website, they want to run a quote. So we plug in 5,000, doesn't really matter state or anything. So let's just say I'm 60 years old and I smoke. So I hit get quote. Client's taken to this page. They can read through the companies that you select and, oh, okay, I'm interested in Mutual of Omaha. I've heard of them before. Contact us. Okay, well, you're going to put in, my name is Joe Wall, Joe at FexToolkit. I've actually used Joe Wall already, so I'm going to change the name here. Let's just say Steve Smith. Put in phone number, let's say 5 p.m. and 123 Main Street, and looking forward to your call. So for TCPA compliance, we do list the language that they do agree to be contacted in our terms of service. So by clicking send, they agree to the terms of service. So we hit send there, and I'm going to turn, I might have missed it, but it'll send me an email any second now. There it is. So a new lead's been added to my CRM. So if I turn that back on, if I head back over to FexToolkit, go to my CRM, and we'll see Steve Smith has been added as a lead, and we expand it. We can see what quote he was running. I didn't put in date of birth, I just put age this time, but you can see, we'll come back to the CRM in a second, but it basically pushes over the information into the CRM and dispositions it as a lead. So that's something to keep in mind if you have a website or if you want to put FexToolkit on your site. So again, heading back over to the main quoter, this is where we have or house pretty much everything. So the light toggle, it's just what I showed you with the link. So it just cleans up the interface a bit, removes the health. You can still run a quote without putting in the health information over here, but it just cleans up the interface a little bit. So we'll run a few different situations just so I can show you how the software works and why it's a little bit more in depth than just a computer program. So right now we'll just put in a graded quote, no health information. So first thing you can look at is you can see the commission cut. So for carriers, again, every contract is different, but certain products, they can cut your commission. So if they do, we list an up to cut here just so you're alerted, hey, it might be a commission cut, double check. In the future, we are going to make this customizable so you can just put in your own contracts, how everything is structured, but for now, this is how we're going to have it. Then the star is all the carriers with Social Security billing. So it's always nice to push your business to SSB carriers. So we have that in there. And before we go to any underwriting, I'll show you what the compare button does. So typically, because we designed this from the perspective of an agent, you're going to pick what product you use first, and then you're going to do most people do the 1, 2, 3 close, bronze, silver, gold. So let's say in this case we ran the quote, and we want to do AM graded. So I hit compare. It pushes my client's information, everything we just ran over to the right side. And then we simply, in this case, if I want to run based on face amounts, we'll do 10, 12, and 15. So I hit get quote, and there we go. So everything in our system returns in under 1 second, so there's no buffering. You don't have to sit there waiting for the product to load. And this is designed for the point of sale. So if you're on your iPad, you can just turn it around, show the client. If you're over the phone, pretty self-explanatory. We have the accidental death there. So this is kind of our point of sale tool that works in conjunction with the quoter. So, and then but one thing I forgot to, Yep, well, not as a PDF. We are building that in, so you can save the quote file. So, like if I save this here, it saves it as a file. I can also push it over to the CRM along with any underwriting information I put in. We do have the saving to a PDF on our to-do list because right now this obviously isn't the prettiest screen. If you do run the quote, it's usable but not the prettiest. But yes, we are building. That was actually a conversation we had today. Was a PDF so you can email it to the client. So that is definitely something we are building in. Yep. Well, there's two ways you can do it. So if I just want to, like if I'm if I want to send something to my manager, get his opinion, for example, I just downloaded the quote file. So it downloads as this weird extension, JSON. It cannot be opened by the computer. So if you try to double click this, you'll either get some weird error or it'll do this, like something weird. But it's designed to be used by our software. So if I wanted to load this back in, like if I clear everything out, it's all blank. If I want to load that back in manually, I just hit load. Like I can rename the file to the client's name stored on my desktop, whatever I want to do. And then it just loads it back in. The easier way to do it is to actually push it to the CRM. So like if we ran, I'll just put in some health information first. So if I put in like AFib, and we'll put in lisinopril. And so let's say I wrote this client, whatever, it doesn't matter the carrier. So say we wrote standard life. So we hit here, we're done the sale, push the CRM, John Jones. We have all the information here, 123 Main Street. It doesn't really matter, I don't need to put this in. But we hit save, pushes him over to the CRM. Go to the CRM, there's Mr. John Jones. And the nice part is if you open it here, you can see the medical information. So if you're touching your clients every 3, 6 months, year, adding coverage, you can just load the client back in. So he says, okay, I want to do an extra $2,000. What would that run me? Okay, let's hit load quote file. You're still taking the lisinopril for high blood pressure. You still got the AFib, anything else. So it allows you to pick up a little bit faster with your clients when you're reaching back out to them. If you're asking if you can import a current CRM, yes, you can. We have a YouTube video on this. It's very, very simple. It takes literally a few minutes. So that is built in, and you can also add clients manually up here. But you can also do a few more things from the CRM. So if I wanted to disposition him because I sold him, we'll disposition him as a sale. You can create your own dispositions and colors if you want to, but we'll leave him as the yellow for now. Let's save. So that's loaded in there. I can edit any of this, add in his email, because we are starting to build out that email capability, like I said. I can schedule an appointment with him. That pushes right over to the calendar that we have over here. So you can put all your events here. Again, we're building out the CRM to be a little bit more comprehensive now. We've kind of just built it, or trying to build it from an agent's perspective. So you can sort by premium, plan name, dispositions. So it's got all the basic stuff in here, and we're building in the email drip system and everything else as we go. So the CRM is pretty much as you see it right now. And if you head back over to the quoter, I'll try to show you some second level underwriting that we have in. So let's put in metoprolol, lisinopril, and we'll put in amlodipine. So as agents, so I work with multiple agents in building the software, and we all have many decades of experience between us. So if you look at just individually here, Liberty Bankers, there's kind of an unwritten rule with Liberty Bankers where if they have 3 or more high blood pressure medications, it'll likely be pushed standard. So not a guarantee. You can see we don't change the indication, but it probably will. So we give you this, whenever you see this red dot here, it gives you an indication. So I'll put in another one that'll make actually a few more pop up. So spironolactone can be taken for high blood pressure. But if I run this quote, you'll see a bunch of red dots. It's on Oxford's old red alert list. It's on GCU's referral to an underwriter list. Sentinel tells you it'll likely be rated. So we try to give you every piece of information we can while you're running your case. And this goes down to, if I put in, let's see. So gabapentin, this is the most commonly known one. Gabapentin, everyone knows what I'm about to do. But gabapentin, metformin, it's going to pop up the diabetic neuropathy indication. You can remove it if you want, but it's added because of the drugs. If I type in carvedilol, some carriers actually have explicit lists, but these are like, indications that we put in just to remind you. It'll remind you this client they're probably not taking carvedilol and spironolactone for high blood pressure, so reminds you of that. Let's see what else. I showed you the GCU one. The one thing that I'll show you about our underwriting system, though, so we do everything in a linear fashion. There's no follow-up clicking. You don't have to read over a list of 18 different similarly worded conditions. We call it a reverse funnel. So we present you with as few options as possible at the beginning, and then you widen it out as questions get asked. So remember, I have every carrier in the system selected, so there's a lot of different questions that are layered on here. If I was to remove a carrier, for example, let's look at cancer. So we've split up cancer into 2 main indications, which is current cancer and past cancer. So let's do past cancer. The first thing you'll see is the type of cancer. Now there's a few carriers that care about type, GCU, Security National, I think Cincinnati Life, and a few others. Now not every carrier does. Some carriers don't care whether it's breast, prostate, bone, they don't. But certain carriers do. So if I was to remove these carriers that care, it wouldn't ask me this menu because it's not relevant. So in this case, we'll hit other. Now it'll ask me the date of last treatment. Let's say it was back in 2017. They were diagnosed back in 2016. Now we have what we call fringe questions or follow-up questions. So several carriers ask, has the prospect ever had cancer more than once? We'll say no. Have they ever had metastatic cancer? No. For KSKJ, in the past 4 years, have they received chemotherapy or radiation? No. Now we've asked every relevant question in that chain so that we know there's not going to be any surprises on the MIB as long as the client's telling the truth with that case. In addition, there's countless questions like that in the system. If I put in liver disease, cirrhosis is a type of liver disease. Prosperity cares about stage 3/C, but just because a client has a liver disorder does not mean they have cirrhosis. So sometimes we put questions like this in just as a prompt. Another example is asthma. So does the proposed insured use a nebulizer to take any inhaled medication? Because that's a question that Assurant and some other carriers ask, and it is something that can show up on MIB. So we try to ask every relevant piece of information in a linear fashion so that once you've answered that final question, same thing with COVID, because we have all the COVID questions in there. So if I was to put in carrier-specific question, this is just a ton of them because I have everything selected, but quarantine, shortness of breath, all the different carrier questions. So you can go through the whole thing, make sure you answer all the relevant questions so that when you put it in, again, there's no surprises on the application. You don't have to reference 50 different applications to make sure you asked everything because everything is in the system as it appears on the carrier applications. So that's, everything in the software. So Royal Neighbors, they're only offering graded in like 3 states. GPM, they're limiting a lot of carriers are limiting the age. Yes, everything in there is according to the current COVID restrictions. Yes. Yep. So that's essentially, I can run quotes all day, but that's essentially how it works. Is it just takes what you put in and it gives you a result based on and I'll just show you quickly the telesales toggle. So if I was to turn on the telesales toggle and we'll run a quote here we'll do 20,000. You can see it'll knock out Assurant because they limit their non-face-to-face for 15,000. So every single thing that you can possibly think of from an underwriting perspective, we have put into the software. Because I'm in my call center right now. I've had a field agency for years, and we work with people like Chris Smith and others who are very, very talented in the field. So every day we do keep this public too. So if you ever send us a suggestion, because you can see we are immediately available. So I don't know why it says 15 minutes, but if you send us a message here, we will respond almost instantly. We're talking to people all day with all kinds of different suggestions and improvements. Whatever you send us, we do listen. And if you do send us a suggestion and we tell you we're working on it, you can actually see it going through our system in our to-do list. And this is our weekly, we release a video every week of what we did that week. So you can see our back burners, some items for later, for our mobile app, general to-do, our on deck is what we're working on or about to work on, and then in progress is what we are. So you can actually track the suggestions that you tell us as we go through them. So nothing that you tell us is not heard. It's definitely all in the works, and we post this link on our social media everywhere. Thank you. We work really hard on it, and we do try to deliver the best product we can. So it is important to us. So never be afraid to send us a suggestion or a comment or a thought, because we do want to hear it, because that's how we make the product better, is by hearing from people who use it. So that is essentially my demo. So